Hi, I'm Nancy. Welcome. I'm going to give you a tour of my Garden of Disarray. For those of you that are gardeners that like everything neat and weed-free, might as well not even watch this. It'll just stress you out. For those of you that are creative food forest, permaculture type of people, you'll enjoy it. So we're filming here from the Kitsap Peninsula, where we have a cottage that we had built, and that's where this garden was. And we started off with fruit trees that we had planted and wasn't fenced or anything. We just had them planted here. And what the grass had gotten probably about 3-4 feet high, and it was just full of weeds. And so we explored different options, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. And this is in about 20 minutes last night. This is June 14th, and I wanted to share with you the beautiful batch of strawberries that I picked last night when we got here, probably about 20 minutes. So to be continued. Welcome to our entryway. These are kiwi, a male and a female, that planted maybe about 3 years ago over an arch, which you can't see. And we aggressively pruned this back, but as you can see, it's going quite wild, but I kind of like it. And it was just laden with kiwi. Now we have all these beautiful blossoms. And the kiwi that we get is about this big, and it's delicious, and it's very abundant. We enjoy it, the birds enjoy it, and so let's find our way through the entrance. This is a very quick scan of the garden, and then I'll go ahead and explain to you kind of what the process was. As you can see, in this garden are different fruit trees. We have 3 apples, we have pear, and then we have many different berries, and we also have fig. And that's, some people consider that a tree, some a bush. But we'll go through and explain what each of these are. There's another apple tree next to this one. These were the original ones, but what we started doing is, over the weeds, I think we put cardboard over the weeds, and then we put about a foot and a half, 2 feet of wood chips. And this isn't bark, it's wood chips from the wood chips around here that we chipped, and then we also got some from a company that will deliver wood chips. And so that helps to deter the weeds, but not all of them. So let's just get a picture here. These are the wood chips, and they decompose over time, and they compress over time, but they do help to deter the weeds. This is one that loves to come up anywhere, everywhere, but it used to be this garden used to be filled with these and other weeds, and now they're very easy to pull up when you have the wood chips. And around each of the trees, we have planted comfrey, which I will be cutting back today. But it's a beautiful flower, and it is a very healthy plant that's very, very abundant and readily spreads. And I planted around because it helps to nourish the roots of the different fruit trees. And comfrey has roots that go down, I think I've read, like up to 14 feet. And what I do also with these leaves is we dehydrate them, and I soak them in oil for about a month. And then I have a recipe for a salve that I make. And it's a wonderful salve for problem skin. I have some friends and relatives that have problem skin, so they love this comfrey. And sometimes I also mix in rosemary, dried rosemary and dried calendula and other things as sort of a healing salve for problem skin. We also plant garlic around here. Garlic is kind of hidden now, but garlic helps to deter the voles, the moles, the mice that might be going and wanting to eat the lower parts of the bark. It's not a total deterrent, but it does deter a bit. So this is one of our apple trees. And then we planted a crop, I can't remember, maybe of 20 strawberry plants, and it just likes to take over. And what I do, other than with most weeds, some weeds I encourage, like dandelions, but many weeds then are deterred by the foliage of the strawberries. And the strawberries offer a very abundant crop that I showed you at the very beginning. So here's rhubarb. That when we planted this strawberry, we'd forgotten that the rhubarb was there. So the rhubarb is getting kind of squished, but it still likes it there, and I will be harvesting that later on today. And here's a beautiful blueberry plant. A friend gave me three blueberry plants, and I have them interspersed here in the garden. Blueberry likes a lot of water, so more strawberries. It's an obstacle course. This is a fig tree. Look at these beautiful figs. This is the first time we're going to have a significant crop. We've had like one or two, but I got some fish oil and really nourished the roots very well in early spring. And around this, I have the comfrey, and there's some garlic in there too. So this is a beautiful fig tree, and fig has to aggressively be cut back because it gets huge. We don't want it to get huge. So what we do with our trees is we don't want them to grow very tall because we like them to be a part of the food forest without getting out of hand, which things have a tendency to do here. And so we do aggressively cut this back. But it's really exciting to see that we're starting to get figs. This is the gooseberry. You can see these beautiful gooseberries that are coming out. They're not quite ripe. They're very tart. They have extremely vicious thorns here, so you have to be really careful picking them. But my aunt, who was a farmer in Spokane for many years, she turned me on to gooseberries, and she made a delicious gooseberry pie. I've never made that. We just enjoy the tartness of the gooseberries when they're fully ripe. I tried one last night. Wasn't so good, wasn't so ripe. So I'm gonna make it over here. This is a bush cherry. It is doesn't get very large, and it's more like a very full bush. And I just planted this a couple years ago, so it's not in full of cherries, but it had beautiful blooms, and the birds enjoy it. But the cherries that the birds don't eat are very delicious for eating. This is another one of the apple trees that I showed you later. This is a currant. Look at these beautiful currants. So we'll be harvesting most of these in the next couple of days, and the ones that are not ripe we will hold off on. Make a delicious currant jelly, and if it doesn't gel, it's a delicious currant syrup. So it's really good. Just eating them by themselves, I can do it, but they're a little bit pithy. But it's a beautiful plant, and it does well here. This is a pear. We haven't planted it it hasn't been here for very long. We don't get very many pears on it, but the ones that we get are quite delicious, and they're soft and very have a sweet flavor, a sweet soft flavor. So this is the pear. You see, this is another section of that currant. Some of these branches are pretty full. You can look through here and see some of them. And here's another blueberry. They're not ripe, but they will be, and they'll be delicious. You can see just different berry bushes interspersed around here. I have some crawling blackberry that I will be weeding out because it has a tendency to want to take over and doesn't produce very well. And I didn't, it's a volunteer. So you can see around this pear tree too that I have the comfrey. So what I'll do in the next couple of days is I'll just pull this comfrey out and I'll just nestle it as a mulch around the base, so it'll have a very thick mulch that will nourish it as well as help to retain the water. There's some more comfrey and tree. This is a Liberty apple tree. It gets very, very full. And each one of these gets very full of apples. So what I have to do is I have to cull some of these apples, because each one of those, I just cull these. And so that I should cull them more aggressively than what I do. But like some people would just leave like one, like every 5 or 6 inches, but I don't cull that aggressively just because I don't want to. But the culling that I do, I get the little, small little unhealthy looking ones, and I just pull them out, or sometimes if they're too crowded. Hi Fritz, this is my dog Fritz. I'm trying to teach him how to weed, but he would rather just supervise. So he's a supervisor. So this does have the garlic and then also the comfrey around it. The garlic, I think, doesn't really show that much because the comfrey likes to aggressively take over. These are our raspberries, and I had to pull them up because they were very old. So I pulled them up and I started new ones, and they're just kind of, so these are very new crop of raspberries. And what I'll do with this comfrey that's coming today, I will cut it back and I'll use it as a mulch after watering these raspberries really well. I'll just mulch that area. Here's a comfrey. I mean, it's a lovely flower. The pollinators love it, and it lends to the health of the soil and the health of the gill. This I will aggressively cut back because it's just a little bit much. But this was a plum tree that had gotten about 20 feet tall. It was supposed to be a semi-dwarf, but got about 20 feet tall, and it was shading everything a little bit too aggressively, and it had like 1 or 2 plums on it that were not very tasty for eating. So we cut it down, and it's still wanting to come up with all these suckers right here. So we have to continue to cut that down. And then the comfrey was around it, but now the comfrey thinks that it's that I planted it there just for them. This is a thornless blackberry, and it doesn't have thorns. And the berries are delicious, abundant, and they're very big. The blackberries are about this big. They're very nutritious and full of antioxidants. However, they're not that flavorful just for eating, but we do eat them and we do enjoy them. I usually mix them with the other blackberries. These are potatoes. This is kind of becoming a potato garden. We pulled out all of the potatoes, we sifted through the soil, and we still get all these potatoes. So they're small purple potatoes, and they're very high in protein. And I have found that in cooking them, they're not that great, just eating them. However, you saute them in olive oil and rosemary, which I have right here, and they're delicious. And add salt and pepper too. They're very, very good. Back here, someone gave me a grape, so I tucked it in here. And the comfort is nestling around it, but I will give it more sun and more space in the next couple of days as I cut this back. Comfrey you can cut back and it will come back. It's a lovely, healthy, productive plant. This is not really worth talking about other than the potatoes. I've planted a lot of root crops here, and then I did plant several rows of onions. The onions, the slugs just love them. We have a lot of slugs here. So I did sprinkle some diatomaceous earth and had some eggshells there. So it is deterring them a little bit, but they still do love to eat everything that we plant. So the root crops are kind of being overgrown. And then this is just Swiss chard that came back from last year. So it was pretty, so I haven't cut it back, but I will cut it back and give it to the chickens. They'll really enjoy that. Almost forgot my wintergreen. This, or it might be a lingonberry. Yeah, this is a lingonberry. My husband always wants me to get things labeled, which would be a good idea. But yeah, that's a lingonberry, and it's a very common berry in the Nordic areas, and it's delicious. Probably many of you have had lingonberry jam. It's very good. So in the middle here, covered with weeds because it's been neglected, is I raised bees for about 3 years, and I took down my hive, and except I just thought I'd put this up if there's any that want to infiltrate it, but they haven't, and unfortunately. But I love raising bees. I raised bees in here for a few years, and in Leavenworth in the mountains where we have kind of difficult weather, I raised them for about 5 years, but they wouldn't make it over the winter. So I'm taking a year off beekeeping, maybe more. So that is kind of a quick tour of the Garden of Disarray.
Could you please tell us about a food forest and what it is and what the strategies are?
So a food forest basically is, as you can see, kind of a forest-like planting of healthy foods that feed, and the symbiotic relationship. And I try to plant things next to other things that will help it to thrive. and hence the comfrey around the fruit trees, the garlic around the fruit trees. And so it's a multicultural experience with different food. It's not monoculture, which is a lot of traditional farming is one huge field and they all grow the same thing. And then they use Roundup to spray the weeds. And I do weed the weeds. It's hard to see, but I do weed the weeds. We also are surrounded by many blackberries, and I cut back the blackberries that were just old and thick, and I want to show you the new blackberries I have coming up. So we'll have I don't know if they will produce berries this year, but we have a lot of blackberries that are planted right along this fence, and I will encourage them to climb up the fence. You see, they're trying to climb into the garden here a little bit. But this garden has been neglected for about a month, and you can tell. But that's okay. I like to plant things that kind of thrive on neglect. Also in the corner, you see a wire bin with logs. And we got some mushroom starts that we had read about. We had seen some YouTubes on starting mushrooms, so we got some mushroom starts and we drilled the holes as suggested, and we put these little plugs of the mushrooms in there, and we soaked it. And it's alder that we cut from our garden, and then we had it in Leavenworth, and it was too dry, so I brought it here and I nestled it into that wired area, because that's where we'll put leaves and grass and different things to have the compost bin. But that has been kind of a failed endeavor, but I thought I would see if they would get resurrected here in the damper area of the Kitsap Peninsula. I want to thank you for viewing this, if you have continued, and if you want to put on some gardening gloves and come and help pull some weeds, you would be more than welcome. And one of the things, though, you might be pulling up something that we want in the garden, because that's sort of what we do here, is we kind of plant herbs and plant different things nestled around. I didn't show you some of the oregano and some of the other things that I have planted over there, just because I couldn't get there because of all the strawberries. But it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's very productive, and I'll also do a video of our main garden in the Leavenworth area. But this is the one on the Kitsap Peninsula, and it's land that my dad bought over 60 years ago. And so we had a cottage built and have this wonderful food forest, which is a very productive way of gardening. So hello, I just wanted to show you an experiment that we did with this peppers. We just have these this greenhouse that we use for starting seeds, and with peppers that can sometimes be a little bit more fragile and need more heat, we decided to put these pepper pots in here. And look at this, here it is, just the middle of June, and already we have some peppers. This is jalapeno, and this is Italian roaster. Look at these cute little babies. So we'll open it up to the sun during the day, and then we'll close it up if the weather's cold and windy, or overnight. So I just wanted to share that. So you don't need a big space to garden. You could just use it like a little space like this, and we'll probably have some delicious peppers.